Hi everybody, welcome once again to another low on health video game review, or game video reviews as I like to call them. Today I'll be going over just games I've played recently, just kind of two quick games. Both of them are downloadable games. These are kind of like smaller games that you download on your PC or Xbox or your PSN or whatnot. But let me just go ahead and go over these. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Back to the Future, the game Episode 1. Now this is of course the Telltale Games game of Back to the Future, and Telltale Games do the classic point-and-click adventures. They did Strong Bad, the new Sam and Max, and other recent kind of titles, and they've done a really good job with this. If you remember the old point-and-click adventure Sierra games, like I did back in the day, those are the games I grew up on. The Leisure Suit Larry, the Police Quest, the King's Quest, and all those types of games are really what I grew up on back in the day on PC gaming. And I love those classic point-and-click adventures. They're kind of trial and error, and you don't really die. You basically just have to figure out the puzzles and figure out what you got to use, Monkey Island style and whatnot. And this is just a really good game. It is a short game. Of course, it's episodic, so this is just the first episode. It probably is more or less like a 12-hour game that they divided up into 4 parts. But the design's solid, the gameplay is solid, and the presentation, I really do like the overall design. The voice acting is great. Now, they, of course, couldn't get Michael J. Fox in, but they had this guy that basically does Marty's voice, and he does it just great. I mean, you really believe that it's Marty. And, of course, Doc Brown is voiced by his original guy, who I can't remember off the top of my head. But the voice acting is great. The visuals are great. It has the overall vibe of the movies perfectly locked down. It's very 100% nostalgia, but done really well. And I do kind of like the point. I mean, in this one, you're kind of going back and you're kind of seeing, a young Doc, which we haven't seen. Like, we see Doc when he's 17 and interact with him. But it's just really cool. It takes place after the third movie, so you kind of see what's going to happen in that universe. I mean, you talk to Doc here, and he mentions that, his kids from the third movie, they're like teenagers now, and they're trying to figure out where they're going to send them to college. And it's just it's insightful to see, like, what's going on next and with these two pairings and seeing how they interact and seeing them get together. It's a really good kind of a game, and I definitely recommend it to everybody to kind of give it a shot or wait for it all to come out and then play it in one good chunk. But I'm digging it so far. The presentation's great, the gameplay's great, the story's good. It's just a good, solid game. Moving on to the next one I'm going to talk about is going to be Monday Night Combat. Now, I've gotten to this rut now because I'm not doing any really hardcore gaming this year, except for right now I'm playing Front Mission 3 again. But, like, I'm really kind of leaning back on the DLC, the downloadable, persistent online games. In which case, as mentioned before, Castlevania HD and Battlefield 1943. What I'm doing now is, actually I picked up Monday Night Combat for the Xbox 360 because it was on sale. A bunch of my friends picked it up. It is a great classic online shooter. Basically, the third-person shooter, as you can see. In this class right here, there's basically different classes, and this is the Assassin class, which I happen to... it's the first class I picked because it's the only female that you can pick out of the 6 classes. But I found out it's just a really good class for me. It's very kind of like I say cheap class, but it's a class I seem to excel at. And I really much enjoy it. And it's kind of cool. I mean, you have the 6 different classes, and you have kind of a bot type of tower defense mentality element put into the game. In which case, I love that. That's not just a straight-up shooter, and it is very team-based. You have to play as a team in order to win. But I really much like the tower defense, and this is the competitive where it's one versus team versus team, but there's also kind of a waves mode, in which case I love playing that because it's a mix in between your basic horde shoot 'em waves mode and tower defense, and you kind of build your towers and whatnot to take care of the waves of enemies, and I just enjoy that immensely. And then when you figure out the perks that you can customize, it has a lot of depth surprisingly a lot of depth to the game, and I really much enjoy it. I already maxed out my achievements for it, and every now and then when we're all online and I have to be online, we'll usually more or less all focus to that because it's new and it seems more balanced than a lot of the other games. And it has a nice little aesthetic. I mean, there's no real story. It has its own little charm to a point, but it's just a solid online shooter. But other than that, that's really about it for recently. Like I mentioned, I haven't been playing that many games this year. I'm going to kind of take a step back, and I'm working on reading and playing some old Shrine games, like Front Mission 3, Vagrant Story, Castlevania, and Xenogears are basically the next couple of games on my long-term RPG block, but those are going to take me a long time to play and beat. But as always, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time.